molecules. So magta-topic kami hindi na. Charot! Okay, so our topic will be again chemical bonding, leaves that structure, and then we need to introduce two topics: formal charge and covalent, valence electrons. Okay, ganon. Diba? For example, mga palantumitan. So, I have here, wait for a while ha. Okay, for example, lang siya guys, we have, okay, lithium, beryllium, charat, okay, and then I have carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, right? Okay, ganun siya. Okay, so these are all coming from energy level of, second energy level, right? N is equals to 2. Really, sir? Yes. Energy level second. 2. Why? Because this is in the second row in the periodic table. Okay? As I told you last week, last week the row represents the energy level. Okay? Like that. So for example, I have here nitrogen. Example on me. Okay, so I said second energy level. So if I have the, what do you call this one? Off-bow principle that states that the feeling of the energy level starts from lowest energy to higher energy levels. Okay? The point, so 0, 1, 2, 3, ganon. Okay? So it will be starting from the lowest energy level to the highest energy level, because the energy level will go downwards, and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Okay, for example, I have here, so 1, okay, 1s, 2s, 3s. I'll just prove that this is going to belong to the same group, or to the same row. Okay, 4s, okay, 4s, and then 2p, 3p, 4p, and then 3d, 4d, and then f, okay, 5f. And this is gonna be, you said second energy level, it's gonna be here, huh? See? All. So for example, nitrogen, atomic number of nitrogen, pila man siya? 7, right? So 7. So atomic number 7. So corresponds to 7 electrons, like that. So I will say ta-da-da, 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 ta-da-da. It's gonna be 1s, 2, 2s, 2, and then 2p3. O, diba? So second energy level siya talaga. So 2, like that. Okay? 2 plus 2, 4 plus 3, 7 electrons. So it's still in the second energy level 2. For example, I have also oxygen, right? Oxygen atomic number is 8. Okay, same story, just add a little bit 1. So 4 plus 4, 8. Okay, like this. It's still in the second energy level, right? Or for example, fluorine, it's gonna be okay, atomic number is 9. I think so. So look na siya, guys. Okay? So it's 4, 2p, 5 pa siya. Okay, because the p suborbitals can hold maximum of 6 electrons na siya. And then s can hold 2 electrons. Okay, so it's still pasok sa banga. Okay, 6 electrons. P suborbitals will hold 6 electrons. I can still put 5. 5 plus 2, 7 plus 9. So 9 atomic number, 9 electrons still pasok sa banga in the second energy level. That's why they are both in the second energy level. Okay, that's the main reason that all of them are occupying in the same row. Okay? Dito po yung mga palangga in the second row starting from the top. Okay? Because the energy level will be starting from the top to the bottom and sharp. Okay? That represents the energy level. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, top to bottom and get sharp. Okay? Like that. So basically these are all, under second energy level. Okay, the point. Now we will mix the octet rule. Okay, for levels structure. So we're gonna be showing you the valence electrons of fluorine is 7, like that. So this is another this is valence. When we say valence electrons, that's not the same with the electrons based on the atomic number. Okay? You get the point. So be careful also for the terminology. Okay? Valence electrons in the outer motion is not the same as the total number of electrons occupied in the energy level 2. Okay? Because if you remember, we have 9 here for the fluorine. Okay? But now it's 7 because this is referring to valence electrons, not the atomic number referring to the electrons. Okay? The point. So, oxygen 6. So, this electrons, valence electrons represent the group, okay, group 6A group. So, nitrogen 5, carbon 4, beryllium 3, and we have also lithium, right? It's gonna be 2, right? And we still have, nakalimutan ako si boron. We still have boron. Okay? Wait. Nakalimutan ako si boron mga palangga. Wait. Okay? Boron. Wait. Napa si boron niya sa first, sa second level pareho na siya sa tanan. Okay, napa si boron. Okay? Napa si beryllium. And then napa si lithium ari. And then si boron na siya kuan. 3 even si boron guys. Charot. Nakakaloka. Diba? Si boron kay, ano siya? Okay. Now, asya ka lang sa mga palangga, no? Okay. I will explain later. So, si boron ay valence electrons niya 3 kay group 3 even siya. Si beryllium na ay 2 na valence electrons kay group 2 even siya. And si lithium na siya 1 valence electrons kay group 1 even siya. So, we need to say the valence electrons represents the group in the periodic table. Now, increasing valence electrons, as you can notice, the pattern or the sequence, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, each element of this increasing valence electrons will also have the bands, BONDS, bands during chemical reaction and chemical bonding. Okay? So, now if you follow the octet rule, mga palangga, octet meaning 8, right? So it has a maximum of 8 electrons only. Now, kay 7 pa man ang fluorine, fluorine has 7, there's still 1 electron. Okay? This represents 1 bond. Okay? Like that. So 1 plus 7 is equals to 8. As long as you can add this 2, will never exceed to 8. That's why it's octet rule. Okay? It's gonna like that. Sorry kasi mga palaka because maybe I was sleeping when I was in the first year college. I did not exactly get properly when I was in, first year college. Okay? Sorry. Okay? Now I'm just clearing it out. Things that I don't really understand the most. Yes! Yeah. Diba? So this is 1. And then 6. Okay, 6 valence electrons of oxygen. We still need 2. So 2 electrons. So these 2 electrons will represent 2 bonds needed in a chemical bonding. Okay, and then this nitrogen is 5 valence electrons. We still need 3 bonds. Katong line na i-attach during the combination. Okay? And then 4, nasa siya 4. Okay? Ang carbon. So carbon has the highest bonds needed. Carbon, especially sa carbon and hydrogen chain. There's a lot in the hydrocarbon, atoms. Okay, something like that. And then for boron, it will never follow the octet rule anymore. Makalibog yun siya if you try to, but imagine siya to kiunano. Okay, because these are all here are all non-metals. Okay? Non-metals. And the other one, kalunod dito, is metals. So, the metals will not follow the octet rule. Salbahis kayo siya. Hindi siya mo follow sa octet rule. Okay? So, in short, What is really this 1, 2, 3? It's also the number of bands. So Brood. So 3 valence electrons. It would also have the same bonds. So the bonds is also 3. Okay? Like that. Okay? Sakto ba? Okay? And then we have beryllium also 2. Ganon. Okay? And then we have also lithium 1 also. Ito the point mga palangga. Okay? So, okay, ganon. So, for example, for boron, boron first. Okay, we react this to non-metal, right? So, it's gonna be boron, example only, guys. Okay, boron, trichloride, boron BlCl3, right? Now, it needs only 3 bonds. It will never exceed. So, for example, boron, ganon. So, pinaka-valence electrons, 1, 2, 3. 3 valence electrons, meaning these are also the bonds. Okay, so I have to put chlorine here. Chlorine, 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 chlorine. So there are 3 chlorine because this is 3 subs represents how many times? Right. Now, since chlorine has 7 electrons in the outermost shell, the same as chlorine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now attach that with the electrons of boron shared. Connect. 1, 2, 3. It meets the requirements of 3. How many ones? 1, 2, 3. So this is the rule for the metals. Okay? Is it the point? So boron trichloride, ganon. So how many unpaired electrons? There are in chlorine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay? Kaya tulungan siya. So 3. Okay, 6 times 3. Sakto ba? Yes. Itulungan siya kasi with 7 siya, 24. So 24 minus 100. Okay. Again, we count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 6, 6. Diba? So 18. Okay, diba? 18. Now, ang boron is completely shared. Okay? Like that. So you will say, boron will undergo non-polar covalent bond with respect to chlorine because it has been completely shared all the electrons of boron. And now, for the chlorine part, you will say, chlorine undergo a polar covalent bond with respect to boron because there's still unshared electrons sa chlorine. You get the point? Oh, wala siya mga palangga. So you cannot say directly that this whole compound is a non-polar or a polar. You need to do it individually. Then if you really want that, then consider the number of the band, the value of the band. Electric band. Na ba electric band? Yes, nakakaloka, diba? Okay. Okay? So, yung i-determine dito sa mga values dito sa books, yung mga certain polar bands, how much like that, para ma-determine yung whether it is really the whole compound is polar or non-polar. Because it happens here that you cannot say directly because the boron is perfectly shared and the chlorine is not perfectly shared. So how can you say generally? So you need to refer to the table. Okay? You get the point? Ano siya, guys? So how can you check that one? Try to check the electronegativity. Okay? AN, tawag na EN, electronegativity. For example, greater, equal to, blah, blah, blah. Ganon. If more than this, it will become polar. If lesser this one, it will become non-polar like that. Okay? And there's a value for that in the books. Okay? You can determine. Okay? Get the point? Ganon. Okay. So, for example, also, if we have here in the, let's say, in the fluorine. Carbon, let's say, carbon tetrafluoride. Okay, let's say carbon tetrafluoride. So there are three fluorine. Carbon, fluorine is three. So carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4. So fluorine, 1, 2, 3. So fluorine, fluorine, fluorine. Okay, and then send 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the other one will be shared by the carbon. Carbon shared, like that. So, chuchu, ganon. So, napaka-excess. Okay? Napaka-excess ang shared electrons, both the carbon and the fluorine. So, meaning to say, this is really polar. The carbon tetrafluoride. Or carbon trifluoride, not tetra, because 3 naman siya. Okay? The carbon trifluoride is really polar. Okay, wala mo completely share. Okay? Ang ilang electrons. Ganon. Okay? So, check how many needed for the fluorine. For that is only carbon, 4, right? Needed 4. So, 1, 2, 3. Since you have only 3 fluorines, so you have still exists 1 here. Okay? For the carbon. Okay? Dito to point mga palangga. Okay? Dili mo siya ipugos, guys, ha? Okay? Dili mo siya ipugos. Kaya kung ipugos ni mo, daga na kay buhaton. So, 1, 2, 3. Masubra naman siya. Okay? Nakakaloka. Di ba ada siya? Okay? Dito po. Ganon. Anak siya, guys. Okay. Muna na siya. So I need to introduce another formulas also for the formula charge. Formal charge. Nasa siya formal charge, guys. Okay? Dagang kagtiman guys, ha? Ganon. Nakakaloka. Okay? So ano naman ito, no? Review sa top. Okay, so naman tayo ka namin kuhan. Total valence electrons, for example. Okay? When we say total valence electrons, it's just the same as saying total number of electrons in the compound, okay? Like that. For example, I have carbon dioxide. Ganon. Di ba carbon dioxide? Okay, ganon. So in this case, guys, how can you compute the total number of electrons? This is not a single element. Okay? For the single element, no problem. The electrons can be determined directly through the atomic number. And the valence electrons can be determined through the group. But I said, how many total electrons of carbon dioxide? This is another story because it's a compound. How can we do this? Okay, so we need to compute this in another way around. So total number of electrons like this. Total number of electrons. So T in E. Okay, gano'n siya. Okay, so yung buhato ni Ani. Lahin na siya, guys. Anak na siya. Okay? Subscript. Ganon. Sa carbon, there's subscript, right? Okay. So subscript 1. Okay? Then, sa carbon, valence electrons is 4. Anak siya. So, we need to see, guys, subscript times the valence electrons. So, dito katiman ang guys, di ba ang atoms? Ang atoms kaya naman to subscript times the numbers of moles. Number of moles times the subscript or subscript times the coefficient. O niya ang charge na isa. Oxidation state times the coefficient. Be careful because lahi mo siya mga style. And then this total number of electrons is valence electrons times the subscript. Okay? Dili mo siya i-mix up. Okay, again. Get the point? So if you balance the charges, like for example, I have CO2. Okay, pareho rin lang talaga yun. Okay, CO2 mo ni siya. Okay, CO2 pila may charge ang CO2. Okay, so anahon din mo siya. Pila charge sa kuan? CO2, di ba? Overall is equal to 0. Okay, neutral compound. Okay, so it's equal to 0. Ganon. So carbon is equals to X, the unknown oxidation state they're trying to compute, times the subscript 1 here, and then plus oxygen -2, oxidation state, -2 times 2, then x times 1 is equals to x, -2 times 2, -4 is equals to 0, x is equals to 4. And therefore 4 is the oxidation state of carbon, 4. Ganon. That is oxidation state computation. Now, since you have 0 here in a neutral compound, your charge for the entire compound will be equal to total charge of carbon dioxide will be 0 times 1. Because there's only one mole of carbon dioxide beside the CO2. So 0 ang charge. Now, here is another story. You cannot say like that. Okay? In the total number of electrons determination. So, di ba? Ano ni? Bungkag-bungkag mo siya, guys. Okay, get the point? Okay. Bungkag-bungkag. Ano mo? Okay. Subscript times the valence electrons of carbon, which is 4. Times 4. Ganon. Bungkag. Plus oxygen. Now, my subscript ang oxygen, which is 2. So, 2 times valence electrons of oxygen is 6. So, times 6. Ganon. So, your total number of electrons will be 4 plus 2 is 10. So, 10 electrons. Ganon. See, 10 electrons, total number is not the same as the valence electrons. Because if you say valence electrons, carbon 4, and then oxygen, pilaman 6. Okay, and then if you add 1 by 1 is equals to 6. So 6 plus 4 is equals to 10 electrons, like that. Okay? Get the point? So 10 electrons, and then here is 16. So it's not equal, right? So you can say really that here, valence electrons, total valence electrons is not equal to the total number of electrons. You get the point? So there's a clear difference if you put the word valence. It will change now. You get the point? Oh, ganon. Okay? So, ganun siya. So, ibig pala sabihin kasi, we need to say, electrons in the outermost shell, we are referring to the valence electrons. Not the electrons based on the atomic number. You get the point? Because in electronic configuration topic, the electrons there are basing on the atomic numbers. But that is not true when you put valence. It's another story. Okay, you get the point? Ganon. Okay. Muna siya natabo. Okay. Ganon. Okay? Ang atoms ko di mo ani guys. Atoms ko na nino no. Bukag-bukagon siya ko di mo. Okay, split. So C, ano dyan ko siya? 1 times 1. Okay. 2 times 1. So it's equal to 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Ganon. There are 3 atoms of carbon dioxide. Why? 2 atoms of oxygen and 1 atom of carbon. Things like this. But there is only 1 mole of carbon dioxide. Because the 1 mole represents here beside the CO2. Okay? Ganon. You got the point? Palangga. Then how many molecule? Okay? For this. The molecule is another story. Okay? So, since you know 1 mole is equals to 6.023 times 10 to the 23 molecule na siya. Okay? You get the point? So, lahit na siya ang formulation sa molecule. You can never say 1 molecule of CO2 is wrong grammar in chemistry. You need to say 1 mole of carbon dioxide. Then if you really force to get the molecule of carbon dioxide, you will still multiply that with the Avogadro number para mahimo siyang molecule. That's why in the balancing of the equation, you will never say 2 molecule of CO2 is equal to the 3 mole of the COQ. It's always expressed in moles, M-O-L-E-S, because that's the reason behind, because it's not correct. We need to use the Avogadro number to relate the mole to molecule. Get the point? Ganon. Get the point mga palangga? Muna siya. So dito magpataka ako naman. Example natin na yung ano na 4 moles of water. For example, okay, then decompose to 1 mole of hydrogen gas and 2 moles of example only ha. Okay. It doesn't mean necessarily balance just for the purpose of discussion. Okay, like that. And then you'll never say 4 molecules of water. Okay? You'll always say 4 moles of water decomposed to hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms. If you will force to use these molecules, then wrong grammar. It is not correct to say 4 molecules of water decomposed to hydrogen atoms and another atoms. No, it's not like that. Okay? Get the point. So that's why it's number of moles. Okay? Get the point. Same story with valence electrons and electrons are not also the same. Okay. Get the point mga palangga. So ang formula pala sa total number of electrons, okay, like this, okay, will be equal to the valence electrons in the outermost shell times subscript of individual element. Ganon. Then for example, if there are so many elements, then follow this one. Valence electrons times subscript plus valence electrons subscript individually so that you can obtain the total number of electrons. Diba? Mahal sa rin mo. Why the electronic configuration, the atomic number represents the number of electrons, but that is not total, that is individual electrons of the element. Okay? And that is not also valence. You get the point? Kasi maglibog mo. Naglibog bang ganit po? Sorry. Charot lang. Okay, ganon. Diba? Diba? So dapat ato yung itoki para makuha siya ito ang mga banag-banag sa kauma. Charot. Diba? Para makuha ito mga banag-banag sa kagabikon. We need to understand really what's happening. Okay. Now, ang quantum ng mga pala, for example, kung nalaki total number of electrons, most of you should know also the banding for that because it will be reflected there. For example, if I have, let's say, methane, because there's so many chemicals in my brain cells. Okay, that's why I need to choose the most easy to express and to explain, right? Okay, like that. For example, I have methane, like this, chuba-chuba-chub. Okay. Calculate the total number of electrons of methane. The question is just simply as that. How can you answer that one? Okay. And then you will go to the atomic number and add individual. No, it's wrong. Okay. So it's gonna be like this. CH4. Total number of electrons of CH4 will be equal to this one carbon first. Ganon. Valence electrons of carbon, okay, times the subscript of carbon, parentheses, plus valence electrons of hydrogen, okay, times subscript of hydrogen, there is 4, 4, ganon. Okay, how many total numbers of electrons? So, valence electrons in the outermost shell of carbon is 4. Ganon. Times 1. Plus valence electrons of hydrogen in the outermost shell. 1. Because group 1 came. So 1 times 4. So therefore 4 plus 4, 8. 8 electrons. Wow. 8 electrons of the methane. Ganon. Okay? Like that. So meaning to say mga palangga, the electronic configuration is not applicable on compound. Let's cut the story short. Okay? The electronic configuration is applicable only for a single element, not for a compound. Okay? So that you will not be confused here. Ganon. So if I have the 8 electrons mga palangga, for example, I have carbon here. Let's do the chemical bonding na. Lewis that structure. And we will refer this one for the Octet Rule. Oh, ganon. So it is expected that there are 4 bands. Okay. Okay na. Carbon, 1 man siya. So buta hindi carbon, 1. Ganon. Hydrogen, 4 man siya. 4 hydrogen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. Valence electrons in the outermost shell of hydrogen. Okay, 1 man siya. So 1. Ganon. So valence electrons of carbon are pass. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then connect. Connecting the dots, having in mind, we need only 4 bonds. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Diba? 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 bonds needed for methane. So we agree siya sa Octet Rule na 4 bonds needed. You get the point? Now, how can we prove the 8 electrons, total number of electrons? So we need to count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 electrons. okay, shared by both carbon and hydrogen. Because this one line represents 2 electrons. So 2, 2, 2, 2, or 2 times 4 is 8. Ganon. Okay, the same with other compounds also. This is an example, right? Okay, ganon. Now, for example, guys, we need to, for example, I have water. Okay, water ang ganon siya. Ang water, so H2O siya no. Okay, hala, oxygen na yun. Okay? If it's not here, the other element will be considered directly. Okay, something like that. So, water, H2O. Oxygen. Oxygen needs 2 bonds only. Ganon. Okay, so 2 bonds ha, lumalakas. Hydrogen 2. So hydrogen 2. 1, 2. Oxygen 1. Oxygen 1. Ganon. How many valence electrons in the outermost shell of hydrogen? So 1 from the right side and 1 also from the left side. How many valence electrons of oxygen? 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now transfer the electrons or share the electrons. So connect this dot. 1, 2. Now does it satisfy the octet rule here? Yes, because there are 2 bonds. Bonds mean bonds, the chemical bond. Because all chemical reaction need chemical bonds to proceed the chemical reaction. If there's no bonding, there's no chemical reaction. Okay? Like that. So, it's gonna be like this. Okay. Now, there are still 4 electrons of oxygen not shared. So, the water is polar. Okay? You the point? Polar covalent compound. Ganon. Okay. Now, let's go to the katong mga positive, negative. So, let's say, mga polyatomic ion, no? Okay, like this. So, for example, I have sulfate. Okay, sulfate. So, SO4 negative 2. Ganon. Di ba nakakaroon ganon? Okay, so maglibog ka because oxygen na ako'y sulfur diri ari. So, what do you think for this? Kung saan man yung pagkuha sa iyong parent atom. Parent atom meaning the central atom you use to bond. Okay? You get the point? So that's the point there. Now, your identification also is that the one that contains only one subscript. Okay? That is the parent atom or the central atom in your bonding. Okay? And the other one was so many subscripts, O4. So normally, it will be bonded. That's the first technique. We will come to your brain cells. Okay, consider first the least atom in a compound. So that would be your central atom. Central meaning center. Okay, you get the point? So in here, parang kayong sulfur. Okay, because only one subscript, 4 biya ang oxygen. Ganon. So sulfur 1. Okay, 1 na subscript. So 1 sulfur. Ganon. How many oxygen? So 4. What? 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now guys, sulfur is not listed here in the second chuba-chuchu, the second energy level. It is in the third energy level. N is equals to 3. Okay, ganon. So, ibig sabihin guys, it will also share the same valence electrons because it is in the same group man siya. Okay? So, actually, sulfur also is 6 valence electrons. Right? Now, it needs also 2 bonds actually the same as oxygen. Okay? Dito po yung mga palangga. But, okay? Oxygen is 2. Ang sulfur, pareho siya dito sa lugar sa sulfur ako. Oxygen, sulfur. Ganon, may niya siya 2. Ganon. Okay, sa pareho siya dapat. So, ang sulfur, bilang ng sulfur valence electrons. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say, ganon siya dari ari. 6, ganon. Napay duha. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Unay duhang excess. Ganon. Now, oxygen, put siya ganun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, di ba? Okay. Yung oxygen natin siya 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ganon. Okay? Ang sulfur, mamaya siya. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hindi ako siya. Okay? Pareho man siya. Okay, ang oxygen ng sulfur, pareho siya sa group 6A. So, 6 valence electrons both. Okay. Now, oxygen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 5, 6. Ganon. Oh, ganon. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, ganon. Now, nakapalang ka. O, diba? Okay. Now, muna yung mga dot-dot. Okay, use the structure man. Ganon. Tadadat, tadadat. Ganon. Ganon, diba? Okay. Ganon siya. Ano siya? Ganon. Okay, ganon. Okay, take note. Oxygen needs 2 bonds. Okay? Meaning to say, it needs 2 bonds with respect to the sulfur. Because sulfur is bonded. You got the point? And then the same thing also, oxygen needs 2 bonds in respect to the sulfur. And here also in the left, needs 2 bonds in respect to sulfur, and also in the top, oxygen needs 2 bonds in respect to the sulfur. Meaning to say, this it means is one structure. This means by the octet rule, or group of 1 to group, ganon. And then, how about the sulfur? So needs 2 also, vice versa. So sulfur needs also 2 bonds to oxygen, right, left, top, and bottom, o bingo. So you will connect directly. Okay, ganon. So, tadadat, tadadat, okay, ganon. Tadadat, okay. Tadadat, 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 tadadat. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Ito isa. Tadadat. Okay, ganon. So, completely shared mga palangga. Okay? Okay, now, tanawa na yung situation. Charot. Okay, so na kay oxygen nga 6, di ba? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, in this case, mga palangga, nahurot og shared. Okay, nahurot, English. In this case, the electrons are all consumed in sharing the electrons to oxygen. So what will happen now? In this case, okay, so you need to adjust the other band for this one oxygen here. Ganon. Oh. You will eliminate this other oxygen here. Okay, so put that again there. Because the other oxygen on the top has not been shared. So you will like this, remain like this. Tadadat, ganon. Oh. So how much na? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's still 2 here. Tadadat, tadadat, ganon. Okay? So, what will happen? So, we will bond that again to oxygen so that mo share na po siya for the 4 oxygen. So, tadadat, tadadat, ganon. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, 6 na siya. Okay? Ganon. So, in this case, guys, okay, in this case, na-break niya ang octet rule in the situation in which they are in the same group. That's the rule. Okay? This rule is applicable only if the other element is not the same group. For example, oxygen bonded with fluorine, oxygen bonded with nitrogen, oxygen bonded with beryllium, oxygen bonded with hydrogen. But if this oxygen bonded in the same group, the rule will change for this. Okay? You get the point, mga palangga. Though considering also the valence electron still, but you will adjust the orientation on the electrons being shared. Like this, see? Ganon. So count again. Ensure the sulfur has 6 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay. Now, tanawa, pag-ayo ha. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count the unpaired electrons of oxygen. Here, 5. Okay, here also is 5. Okay, but here, gilid na siya kaya 2 bonds na siya. Okay, so 4. 4 electrons. How many unshared? So, 4 times 2, 8. 5 times 2, 10. So, 10 plus 8, 18 electrons unpaired. Okay? for oxygen. Okay, in terms of sulfur, all electrons of sulfur has been shared to oxygen. Okay, so we need to say sulfur is doing a non-polar covalent bond with respect to oxygen, and oxygen doing a polar covalent bond with respect to sulfur, because there's an excess electrons of oxygen remain. Okay? Ingana siya. Okay? Ganon. So, now we will solve for the total number of electrons. Here, right? Ganon siya chuba-chucho. Okay. Total number of electrons is equals to the valence electrons of sulfur. So, sulfur, 6. Ganon. Times 1 subscript plus oxygen, 6 added valence electrons of outermost shell times 4. Ganon. Okay. Now you will say, 6 plus 24, di ba 22? Yan in here, 18 siya. Dili siya mo match. You get the point? Dili siya mo match. How can you do this? Dili man siya mo match. So, you need to add 6 plus 24. So, 24 man na siya, di ba? So, 24. So, since there are 2 in the outermost shell, okay, so you will say, 24 plus x is equals to 2. Ganon. Okay? So, x is equals to 2 minus 24. Then, x is equals to 22. Okay? Ganon. Get the point? Okay. And where is this other 4? Other 4 electrons. Okay? These are compensated with the oxygen. See, 4 electrons here and 4 electrons here. Something like that. Okay? You get the point. Something like that. Because that is negative 2 charge. Ganon. Di ba nakakaloka? Okay. So, adanin mo siya of 4 electrons. You get the point? Ang 18 electrons, adanin mo 4, it will become 22. You get the point, mga palangga? Okay? And then so that it will transfer into the charge. You get the point? Anak na siya mga palangga, ha? Okay. So, monitoring ka na negative 2 here. Okay? Okay, mga palangga. Okay? So, muna siya yung hitabo. Ano siya permit? Total number of electrons, valence number, emoji na siya nagsatagsaon. Okay? You get the point? Muna siya natabo. Okay? So, sulfate. Naanak siya ang sulfate, guys. Okay? So, in short, lisod ang polyatomic anion, ha? Ikumpara mo sa mga simple na covalent molecular compound. Okay? Ganon siya. What else? Okay? And then, another example also, if we have, say, for example, water. Okay? Water, hydronium ion, ganon, and then hydroxide. Imong man ang this, basta natin siya charge, lahi siya pamaagi. Okay? It's totally different to the compound that has no charges. Hydronium ion, positive 1, bayan na siya mga palangga. Okay? Hydroxide, negative 1. Right? So how can you do the Lewis-Dot structure for chemical bonding? For the water, it's easy, right? Already done. So we will go to hydronium ion na lang. Okay? Dito sa kaning duha. Base, acid, and base. Lewis acid, Lewis base. Okay, hydronium ion and hydroxide ion. Yield positive an ion, yields negative an ion. Okay, ang OH. Okay, so this will be driven because it will accept, okay, electrons. Okay, and then this will also donate electrons, this one. That's why it becomes negative because it donates 1 electrons. Okay, this one accept 1 electron, so it's plus. You get the point? Again, H3O positive 1, it's plus because it accepts electron. So that is Lewis acid. Okay, Lewis base is going to donate the proton. When it donate the proton of OH, then it will be negative 1. So negative 1. Okay, ganon. And negative 1 is the anion. negatively charged anion, and this one is cation, positive cation. Okay, cat, CAT, and then this one an. So both are ions, IONS. So I'm not going to share with you guys what are the two types of ion? For example, examination. What are the two types of ion? Your answer will be cat ion and an ion, ha? If it says, what are the two types of ions? Ganon. Yeah. Positively charged particle. Libog na kawala na yung ion. Ay, kalibog. That's still cation. Okay? Because all ions are being charged in a solution. That's why positively charged particle. And an ion is also an example of a particle. Okay? Dito point. So gusto mong ibog naman, wala na ang word na ion. Okay? So pareho naman siya. Positively charged particle, positively charged ion is cation. Positively charged ion, positively charged particle is an ion. Okay. Lahat mo itong cathode o anode kay kuan man to siya electrode in which dito mo cathode. Okay. Cathode. Ganon. Like that. Okay? Like this. So ang cathode mo muna ang negative terminal. Okay? Correct if I'm wrong. The anode is the positive terminal. Okay? So the cation will go to the anode and the anion will go to the cathode, something like that. Okay? Baliba na siya guys sa electrode na. Okay? You get the point mga palangga. Okay. Ganun siya. I-review lang na ninyo kasi nasayo po kagkunan ng electrical engineering kasi mawala siya sa chemistry. Okay? And correct me if I'm wrong, we will issue error statement for that also. Okay? Labi na kalit-kalit ang itong discussion. Okay? So, hindi ta makaandam. Charot! Okay, ganun siya. So, H3O. Ganon. H3O. Tapos na guys ha. Actually, suwag guys. Kaloka. Okay. Paabot sa mo guys. Pwede. Ganon. Hydronium ion. Okay. Hydronium ion. H3O positive. Ganon. Tapos sa. I think wala na ko ikuha. Charot! Okay. Now, use this. There is that structure. So, hydrogen 3. Hydrogen 3, oxygen only 1. Oxygen only 1. So, your parent or central atom is the oxygen. Ganon. Then, say, 3 hydrogen. So, 1. Ay, sabot na ni band. Hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen. Ganon. Ang oxygen, guys, ang awar ng oxygen, pila. So, it needs only actually 2 bonds. Okay. Now, it will break the rule. Why? Because there's already 3 hydrogen. Okay? It will break the rule because there's a lot of hydrogen atoms. Okay? Hindi ito po yung mga pala na ganon. So, ito may sinisita itong oxygen ganon. Charat, ganon. So, 6 valence electrons of oxygen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ang hydrogen po, 1, 1, 1. Okay, connect. The chemical bonding. Connect. Tararat, connect, connect, connect. Okay. Since this is charged nun siya, positive 1, you need to put a close and open parenthesis like that so that you can know what is the charge here outside. Okay, ganon. Okay. Now, this is really the true. If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, since we have the rule for that, we need to compute the total electrons. So, total electrons is equal to, katong gitudlo ninyo, di ba mga palangga? Okay, 3, okay, times 1, valence electrons of hydrogen. So, 1 times 6 for oxygen. Okay, because subscript 1 times oxygen, valence electrons 6. Ganon. So, it will become now 9. Okay, 9 electrons. Okay, now. Okay. In this case, guys, to compensate the octet rule, we need to subtract. Okay? Is the point? So, subtract. How can we do it? Subtract negative 1. Okay? It will become 8 electrons. Okay, subtract. Now, if you do to subtract that one, guys, okay, to comply with the octet requirements, then this one also, we need to remove the electrons in the oxygen. It will become now, tantangan ni siya, okay, and then this one, will be transposed outside, and this will become positive 1. You get the point? Nilukso din ng electron. Nakakaloka. O, diba? Sige, kung ano na siya, o, naman tayo sa electron. Kibaw, biya kang electron, negative yan na siya. Okay, negative yan yan po ano. Okay, so if it is negative, then this electron, 1 na siya, itong minus 1, kaya anong na siya ito? 1. Para Octet Rule lang yun siya ba? Okay, ganon. So, it will transfer outside, it will become positive 1. That's why we have H3O positive 1 is our charge for hydronium ion. Now, okay, di ba wala siya, nasamok na siya, no? Kaya oxygen 6, mata na siya dapat. I-count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Asa ang usa? O nilokso. Okay, sa outside, so it will become the charge of hydronium ion. Ano na siya? Okay, dito po yung mga palangga na siyang may tabo. Now, kung nanakay 8 electrons here, ipakuno kung 8 electrons ba yun siya? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are total of 8 electrons. So, perfect. It obeys the octet rule. Ganun kaya kung if we still have other one here, it will become 9 electrons and it doesn't follow. Okay? Something like that. Get the point? So, now, we go to the OH. Okay? Hydroxide na po ta mga palangga. Okay? Ganon. OH negative 1, functional group, hydroxyl group, right? Hydroxide OH negative 1. Okay, ganon. Get the point mga palangga? Ganon. So, how can you predict in this situation where is the central atom? Where this both is having the one subscript. You cannot identify, right? How can you do this? Okay, you cannot identify really. And this is no issue because having only one hydrogen, one oxygen. Anybody can be the central atom, of course. Diba? Ganon. So, oxygen 1, oxygen 1, ganon. Hydrogen 1, isa ka sa kabuo, ganon. So, there's no issue. Where's the center? Okay? You get the point? Oxygen, 6 valence electrons. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ganon. And then the hydrogen here is 1. Okay. Before doing the chemical bonding, get first the total number of electrons as I told you before, right? Okay. Total number of electrons is equals to oxygen. 6 valence electrons times 1, so 6. Ganon. Hydrogen, plus 1, subscript. Then ang hydrogen times 1 sa siya because of group 1E valence electrons. So plus 1. Ganon. Is equals to 7 electrons. Okay. Now, 7 electrons to comply with the octet rule. Of course, you have to add. You get the point? You have to add because it's still 7. Octet meaning 8. So still plus 1 electron. Okay, plus 1 electron. Okay. Now, you need to add 1 electron here, supposedly. Now, if you add 1 electron here, how about your bonding? It will be affected. Okay, so don't add yet. Just do the bonding first. Ganon. Ganon siya. So, ano siya nahitabo? So, then, add the electron. Ganon. Because when I do this, it's good to do the chemical bonding first. And later we will adjust this electron, right? So, add electron siya. So, plus 1 electron back. Ganon. But, we do the chemical bonding first. If you try to look the valence electrons, it deviates. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 7. But you put the close and open parentheses here. Okay. Now, since you have a positive 1 electron, then positive 1 is added. Mulokso siya sa gawas, it will become negative 1. Okay? So that's why you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6. Ika-6 ni siya. Okay. So meaning to say, minus 1. Okay? Kinilokso naman siya, guys. Ano siya nitabo? Okay? You get the point? So, katong the other one is lahi siya. Okay, kay plus man siya. Gipunan siya dito. Gawa siya sa kuan. Sa iyang parenthesis ba? Ito ni siya kay plus man siya supposedly from Octet Rule. So, muna siya, may tabo na punan mo negative 1 diri because of one supposedly here na gi-add sa 1 electron. Okay? You get the point. So, if you try to move this 1 electron, supposedly nga, you add here, may mo siya negative 1. And then, this is the charge of your OH. Negative. Hindi siya positive. You get the point? Because you add 1 electron. Upon having it here, then if it will go out to the parentheses in the, let's say in the structure, it will become negative. The other one, it will minus kasi yun eh. 9 electrons minus 1. Okay, when you add that in the center, then of course, it will go out to the shell, it will become positive. This one, the shell kani siya. Okay, kani parentheses. Okay? Then if you go out, transpose mo dyan yung sign. You get the point? O, ana siya. See? Positive 1 electron. I put that 1 electron here and then transpose negative 1. Ganon. Okay? You get the point mga palangga. Okay. So, kanilokso naman siya dito, you should remove this. Okay? The same as S3, okay. Ato naman siya dito, hindi siya positive. So, dito naman siya, skyline naman siya dito. 5 siya. Ganon. Just like this also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, missing 1. Pero ato siya, missing 1 po siya. Okay? The only difference is that the transpose, chuba-chucho. It will become negative, it will be positive, ganon. Okay, so very clear that if you add, it will become negative charge. It's very clear if you subtract, it will become positive charge outside the shell. Ganon. Okay, so it's for the hydroxide. Ganon siya. Wala. That's why we have a charge of negative 1 of OH. That's the main reason. Okay, wala siya may kalit. Okay, na during our memorization, dapat ang OH negative. Hindi mo ko ang negative 1. Oh, this is the explanation why. Okay? And also in the hydronium ion, why is a positive 1? Because of this also situation, gano'n siya. Okay? Ito po yung mga palangga. Ganon. Oh. So, ang hydrogen, anong positive 1 basta na ang charge? Okay, dahil sa group 1A, mo naman ang valence electron dito. So, kay single element naman siya. Okay? Dito point. So, in case of the hydrogen, way lubog. Okay, because hydrogen is atomic number 1. This is also the electrons. This is also the valence electrons. Okay? Kasi both 1 lang kasi siya in the periodic table. 1 atomic number. At the same time also, the mass number is also 1 point something. So all are 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. Okay, so there's no issue for hydrogen. Okay? You get the point? Anak siya. Oh no, we go to the covalent na. Covalent, carbon. Okay, sikat mo dyan yung carbon, no? Okay, we need to have an example about carbon. But this time, we don't need to bond with hydrogen. So, oxygen. Okay, sikat mo dyan siyang carbon dioxide o carbon monoxide. Right? Carbon monoxide, CO, and carbon dioxide. Right, the chemical bonding. The Lewis structure. Muna siya ang mga questions. Okay. Of the following, write the Lewis structure and chemical bonding. Calculate the total number of moles. Ganon. Calculate the total number of electrons. Calculate the formal charge. By the way, I forgot to mention that the formal charge formula is gonna be like ganon siya, okay? The oxidation on the valence electrons. So, valence electrons, okay? Ano siya? Okay, minus plus how many bonds? Ganun. How many bonds? So, letter B. And then, how many is being not shared? Excess electrons. Okay, ganun. Excess electrons. So, this is the formula of the formal charge. Okay? Ganon. Ito point. So, in case, ganun na itong example, chuba-chucho. Iba na ang mga kampuan. Ano naman to? So, ato na naging memorize. Okay, nakuha naman natin kanina, di ba guys? Okay, ganon. Ganon. So, valence electrons of oxygen is 6. Okay. Then the bands, 1, 2, 3. Ganon. 3. Plus exist electrons, 1, 2. Ganon. So, 6 minus 5 is equals to 1. That's why positive 1 is the charge also. Aside from knowing that it will transpose to the outside shell. So this is also this is the theoretical, okay, true formula. And the other one is true explanation that when it goes out to the shell, it will become negative. The negative will become positive. The negative will become positive. The positive will become negative because it goes out now to the shell like that. Okay? And this explanation is a standard for the formulation. Kani ba math? Okay? Kato kay reasoning. You get the point? You get the point? Reasoning and the formula. This one. Now in case of OH also, bisa mo na tayo OH itong galore. Ano na yun? Okay, OH. Talagang ganan. Diba? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ganon. And then H here. Okay? Tiniad mo nag-1. So, ang imong i-consider, you should consider the result after removing 1, after adding 1. In computation of the formal charge again. In the computation of the formal charge, you will consider the result upon adding or after subtracting. Okay? So, ganon. So, formal charge of OH. Okay? It's gonna be oxygen, valence is 6. Oh, ganon. Okay, then the bands, how many? Usa naman? 1. 1 plus how many is the unshared electrons? Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 6. Okay? Like that. So formal charge is equal to 6 minus 1 plus 6, 7, right? So formal charge is equal to negative 1. That's why OH we have negative 1 charge also based on the formula. Okay? Not on the logical reasoning when the electrons will go out from the shell. Okay, the sign will change, okay? So for me, it's better to know this also, right? To prove, okay? To prove that your formal charge, this is called formal charge, your formal charge is really correct. Okay? Ganon. Okay. Now going to back to the CO and CO2, mga palangga umitad. Okay. Now we go to the CO to CO2. Kani siya, pag makabuang gamay, gamay lang, slide. Okay? So, let's say, carbon monoxide. Okay, di ba? Nakakaloka gini siya. Taawan mo ha. Okay. Carbon pareho. The same. Okay? Central atom is not an issue. Just like OH, right? Okay, but the only difference, this has no formal charge because these are neutral compounds. There's no charge. Okay? Like that's what carbon monoxide. Carbon, oxygen. Nakakaloka, di ba? Now, carbon has a valence electrons of 4. What is it? Tara. Oh. Ganon. Carbon. Oxygen much? 6. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ganon. Okay. Now, how many bands you will make for this? Okay? You cannot establish directly because oxygen needs 2, okay? And carbon needs 4. Okay? How can this carbon needs 4? It's impossible. Okay? Like this, kung doon yata na siya magbilin. So 0. It's not allowed in the banding. You should share everything and the other one is unbalanced. Okay? It's not allowed. Something like that. It's not good. Yeah. Oxygen to carbon is 2. Mamit na niya talaga yan. Oxygen to carbon requires 2 bonds. Oh, 1, 2. Oh, oxygen to carbon, okay. Check. Carbon to oxygen needs 4. Impossible. Okay, impossible. Because you know, this is not allowed to completely share the carbon and then there's imbalance there. Okay, got the point mga palangga? Siya may tabo. Okay. Okay, so how can we do this? Okay, so the first thing to do this mga palangga, okay, the first thing to do this is to compute the total number of electrons. Total number of electrons, diba? Ano siya? So, this one, carbon. Carbon 4, valence electrons, so 4 times 1. Okay, oxygen, 6 times 1. 1 kayo, subscript nothing man, equal as 1. So 10 electrons, right? I-count daw, 10 electrons naman na siya. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, if this is the electrons, we need to add more. Okay, we need to add more band. Okay, why? Because if we force to have a 4 bands of carbon, it is not allowed lagi. Because maximum of triple bands lang siya in chemistry. 3 ang maximum, guys, ha? And then the octet rule needs 4. How come it cannot be done? So it needs additional 1 to complete the maximum bands. You get the point again. Carbon needs 4 bands in the octet rule. Since the parent rule for organic chemistry, the triple band is only 3. It will never exceed for 4. So it will deviate now the octet rule. Things like this, huh? Okay. Now, I still need 1. Since I have 10 electrons, it is possible. Okay, now I have another one. So I will transfer these electrons mula sa sa kilid. Oh, the orientation. Di ba? Ganon. And then this also remaining 4 here for the oxygen, ni-orient po siya ang isa. Nilukso. Oh, dire. Mahawa na siya. 1, 2, 3, 4. So dahil na siya dire, oh, ganon na siya. Di ba? Oh. Yung carbon dire kay ano naman siya, lukso naman siya dire ari. So 1 2 3 4 kaon. Oh, ganun. Talaga. And there's still 1 3 habilin dire ari. Okay, ganun 3. And here, ang habilin only 1. Okay? Ganon. So count how many electrons has been shared. Ganon. Diba? Ano siya ha? Tararat. So, atong dito key, that the unpaired electrons of carbon is only 1 left. And 3 electrons unshared also only 3 left. Ni-comply siya sa 3 maximum bands. Okay, na-deviate ang octet rule. Okay? Daog dyan ang katangkuhan. Parent theory sa organic chemistry na maximum of 3 bands. Okay. Now, how can you do this? Okay? Na siya, no? Anak na yun. Count ang 10 electrons. Kung tinuod ba yun siya 2 electrons, now 10 electrons ang total. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Correct. Perfect. There are 10 electrons in this carbon to oxygen band, carbon monoxide. Okay. Now, what will happen for this? Okay. In this situation, what will happen? So this is in balance, the carbon, and oxygen also in balance. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ganon. So what will be the situation here? Okay. So in this situation, which of the following has more electrons unshared? We got oxygen. Okay. So more than. So let's say more electrons. Ganon. Unshared. Yung ilang. Okay, there are 3, right? 3 electrons unshared. And only 1 electrons unshared. Okay? Then you need to do the arrow down. Okay, because it's only less. Okay. Now, what you will do for the situation? Okay. What do you do to the situation? To have a formal charge. Okay. For this one, formal charge is equals to, okay. Let's do the oxygen first. So 6, okay, minus unshared electron of oxygen. Unshared, di ba ka na siya? 1, 2, 3. Plus the band, 2. So formal charge of oxygen will be 0. Okay. 0. And then for the carbon, formal charge of carbon. Okay, how many carbon is 4? Valence electrons, 4. Okay, bond, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then unshared, 1. Okay. 4 minus 3 is equals to 1. Okay? 1 ang carbon. You get the point, mga palangga. So 1 ang carbon, meaning to say plus 1. Okay, plus 1. Okay, since plus 1 siya guys, we need to put another, ganon, another dot. Okay, now since if C is equal to 0, so you have to minus the 3 electrons. Okay, you get the point. So if you minus the 3, what will happen for this? So 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. So you will eliminate this 3. Okay, okay, like that. Okay, you will eliminate the 3. Okay? Now, if you eliminate the 3, ganun siya. Medyo tukiog, guys. Ganun siya, guys. Okay? If you eliminate the 3 electrons unshared, now it will not also be balanced with the carbon, which is the 2 when you add 1. Di ba nakaloka? Okay, so to make that equal, you will only remove the other electron, which is the 1. Okay, again, in your formal charge, you need to have 0 actually for the oxygen. Okay, naman siya unshared supposedly na 3. So 3 minus 3 is equals to 0. Now, if you try to terminate the 3 electrons of the oxygen, if you try to look that structure, it will become imbalanced because you add 1 electrons of carbon. To compensate the electrons of the carbon, which is 2, you should not remove the 3. Instead, only remove 1. You get the point? To balance. To unshared carbon, to unshared oxygen. Okay, now you're only removing 1. So removing minus 1. So positive 1 here and negative 1 here. So in this case, we can now have a neutral charge. Because this is positive 1. If you add positive 1 and negative 1, this will become 0. Okay. Now, take out of your carbon monoxide. I said in the theory, it is a neutral compound. It matches because neutral compound has a charge of 0. This explains why the carbon monoxide has a 0 charge. It is a neutral compound because of this chemical bonding Lewis dot structure. Diba? You get the point? Lisod ang carbon monoxide. Okay? You get the point? So, you can say, because there's a positive 1, there's a negative 1, then carbon monoxide is highly polar, meaning not the same charge in each oxygen and carbon. Ganon. Any questions so far? Diba? Yung nakakaloka? Okay, atong balikon. Okay. Now, compute for the formal charge of each for carbon. So carbon. So how many valence electrons of carbon? 4. So 4 minus the bands of carbon respect to oxygen. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Plus how many unshared electrons? Supposedly wala pa tanagad ha. Ganina. So plus 1. So 4 minus 3 plus 1. Okay. 3 plus 1. So it is 2. Di ba? Ganon siya. Okay. Ganon. So muna yung mahitabo. Oh. So, ikakuha mo na maka-obtain na yun ka o charges mo na siya. Naman mag-add ka din o 1 na anak na yun. Di ba? Okay. So, muna siya may tabo, guys. Any questions so far? Na siyang, muna neutron niya kay 0 din siya tanan. Okay? Okay, mga palangga kong hitan. Muna siya sa carbon monoxide. How about the carbon dioxide? Okay. Mga kaloka. Okay. Sa carbon dioxide, sa ano nato? Maragya po. Okay, so carbon, what is this? Sayo na siya. Carbon is 1, oxygen is 2, right? So oxygen is 2. Ano mo? Oxygen right, oxygen left. So klaro kayo yung central ng carbon, kaya usaram ng sa combination of carbon dioxide. Okay, on. So carbon meets the requirement of 4 bands. Oxygen 2. 4 bands lang siya. 1, 2, 3, 4. And oxygen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then adjust the 2 electrons, orient back in the center because the electrons of carbon is in the center. Move here, ganun. Now, ang requirement sa carbon is 4 bands. Connect na yan. 1, 2, 3, 4. Follow ang carbon dioxide. Ang carbon monoxide hindi follow sa Octet Rule. Okay? Ang oxygen, ang oxygen 2, pila ba sa oxygen with respect to carbon? So 1, 2 on the other side. 1, 2 on the other side. Each structure man pasabot na ng Octet Rule. Okay? Di ba ng overall? Okay, ganon. So, nahurot ang carbon. Okay, meaning to say, carbon is completely shared the electrons to oxygen in left hand side. So, meaning to say, non-polar. Okay, kung may definition sa non-polar, okay, electrons are completely shared in a chemical bonding. Okay, ganon. So what will happen to the oxygen here? I-count din yung electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 electrons for carbon dioxide. Are you sure? 16 electrons in the carbon dioxide. Compute na yun. Total number of electrons. Ganon. Carbon. 4 valence electrons times 1. Then oxygen is 6. So 6 times 2 subscript. Then 4 plus 12. Then 16 total number. It's equal. So it's correct. When you count 16, when you use the formula, it's also 16. Ganon. Okay. In this case, sa theory na akong nabasahan, partially positive ni ang usa diri ari sa kilid. Okay? Partially positive and the other one partially negative, and carbon will be in neutral because sharing the other side to other one and sharing also to other side here. Okay? Pareho siya sa water, may siguro na siya. Okay, H2O. No, it's not because water is not on the oxygen, it's on the hydrogen siya. Okay, it's not the same with water. Okay? Sa carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is non-polar and carbon monoxide is polar. Okay, ganon. Okay? Mga ganon lang siya. Charot! Any questions so far for this topic? Then irambol na yung inatot na yun sa mga ubang topics. Okay? Nakakalaw kayo na yun. So any questions so far, mga palala, thank you so much for watching. You can comment, you can like, you can share, and you can subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell for some newest updates every channel. Bye-bye, everybody. God bless. Diba? Kalas. Nakakaloka.